What's up, everybody? This is John with John Fair Innovations, bringing you more League of Legends Worlds 2021 content. This is, of course, a preview to the third best of five quarterfinal. We are heading towards the championship stages of the Worlds tournament. Bittersweet because this has been such an amazing Worlds. We wait all year for it to come around, and it seems it goes by so quickly. This is like Christmas for us professional League of Legends fans. But of course, the matchup we're talking about today is Damwon versus Mad. Damwon had a very dominant performance. They were probably the only team of the favorites, so like your FPXs, your RNGs, your EDGs, Damwon. They were the only one of that sort of group that really performed at a level that we kind of expected, but didn't expect them to be this strong. So they actually really showed how dominant they are, how much they've improved since MSI, and why they are potentially favorites to win the tournament. And of course, if Damwon does win this, they would be the only other team outside of SKT to win back-to-back Worlds. So history is on the cards for them. Now, they are obviously going against Mad. Mad have the tough ask of not only taking a game off Damwon, something that no team has yet to be able to accomplish at this Worlds, but to do it 3 times in a best-of-5 series. Of course, Mad are the number 1 seed of Europe. They are the hope of Europe. They had a really tough time in the group stage, in a group that you would have liked to have seen them be dominant in, given the fact that their competition was Gen G, LNG, and of course Team Liquid. So, if you're wanting Mad to be, pushing for potentially being able to get to semifinals, get to finals, possibly win the tournament, you would have wanted to see them have a stronger group stage. As it stood, though, they did bounce back from a 1-2 week and were able to make it out second in their group. Now, if we are talking about this matchup, it is very much top side versus bot side. And this seems to be a general theme with Damwon, as it's kind of the way it's seen that you can potentially target Damwon is through their bot side, because their top side is very strong. And obviously we talk about Khan. Khan, of course, replaced Nuguri, and people saw this Damwon as potentially weaker, not as strong as the Damwon that had Nuguri in it. But Khan in this tournament is showing us, or reminding us, why there was a time where Khan was considered the best player on the planet. Like, he was the guy that used to always beat SKT, used to always beat Faker. And we're starting to remember that, because we're starting to see these pop-off performances on these carries. And the meta is really suiting that. They're really suiting being able to put investment in your top laner to carry, and Khan is rewarding Damwon. He's had a phenomenal tournament. You would probably say that he is the best performing top laner. Maybe you could make an argument for Xiaohu, but certainly it's between those two, between who has been the best top laner this tournament so far. Now, of course, if we are talking about Khan, his champion pool, again, really strong, really deep champion pool. The fact that Jace is so strong in the meta makes Khan even stronger, but all his champions at the moment seem to be really in meta, which is why he's having such a really good tournament. But of course, Jace, big priority when it comes to Khan. I do expect them, though, if Jace gets banned in the pick and ban stage, which I do expect it to. I don't expect Mad to really let Khan be on Jace. I'd be very surprised, unless they plan on just simply first picking or a Wukong, for example. I really don't expect them to let Khan get Jace. So with that in mind, I would probably see Khan playing a lot of Graves and a lot of Jax, as these two seem to be the strongest top laners in the meta right now. Graves has so much sustainability with their shield bow build. And of course, Jax, we all know, we've all been in solo queue, we all know how much that champion scales and then just dominates late. Something not to sleep on though with Khan. Khan actually is not a bad Kennen player. And Kennen obviously is very strong. It's not something you think of when you think of Khan, but just keep that in mind because that is something that he is more than capable of playing and pulling out at this tournament. Damwon though, a lot of their success comes off the back of potentially the best jungler we have ever seen play the game in Canyon. Canyon is a beast. He continues to be a beast in jungle. And the scariest thing about Canyon is that you have, like, you see junglers, they have a short period where they're the best jungler in the world, but the nature of jungle and the champions that get played in the jungle is constantly changing. You think of the jungle meta in 2018 when Ning was the best jungler on IG. Then you think about the jungle meta when Tien was the best jungler on FPX. Then you think about last year with Canyon. Like the jungle meta consistently changes, and this is what's so scary about Canyon is that in this tenure of Damwon's dominance, we've seen very different types of jungle metas, but in all of them, Canyon still continues to be the best jungler on the planet. And it's a testament to his ability and his deep champion pool. So he's someone that can't be banned out. Now, I expect Showmaker to be on a lot of AP this series. So with that in mind, I really think Canyon is going to look for Lee Sin. Lee Sin to me is the strongest jungler at the moment. But yeah, I expect to see Lee Sin, expect to see Olaf, Poppy, Trundle, these sort of champions that can really contest the other jungler. And I expect Damwon to really want to attack Elyoya. Not to say Elyoya has been bad, but Damwon really like Canyon to get into the face of their enemy jungler and really put them off their game. We saw this with Pyoshik last year, for example. For those who remember, Pyoshik, really talented jungler, but he just was very lost when it came to facing Canyon, because Canyon would just pick these champions that would invade his jungle and just really put him off his game. And we saw Canyon do that to so many other junglers as well. And I expect Damwon to want to do that to Elyoya, because Elyoya is so important for Mad Lions. Damwon, they do also, like, you talk about the talent that this team has. You've got Khan, who's the second best top laner in the world. You've got Canyon, who's potentially the best jungler in the world that we've ever seen. And then you've got Showmaker, who I think this tournament has shown he is the best player on the planet. As great as Chovy is, as great as Doinby is, Showmaker has proven, I think, that he is the best player on the planet. And this is the amount of strength that Damwon has in their top, their jungle, and their mid. And I know we talk about it a lot, and people probably get sick and tired of people talking about Damwon's top side of the map, but we've got to sort of take a moment to appreciate it, because I don't know if we will ever see a mid-jungle duo in Showmaker and Canyon, like, as strong as this duo ever again. Like, this, to have the two best players on the planet, potentially, in Canyon and Showmaker, at mid and jungle, with a top laner who is, at worst, a top 10 player in the world and top 2 in his position, it's really something that we may never see again. We had it with Nuguri, and we thought that, we weren't going to see it again when Nuguri went to FPX, and Khan has stepped in and he's become that player. Showmaker, his champion pool is so deep, he's willing to play pretty much anything in that mid lane, whether it's, aggressive assassins, whether it's, control mages, whether it's, AD champions and bruiser champions. He plays it all, and so it's very hard to pinpoint what Showmaker will play. I think given the meta, we should expect to see Twisted Fate. Showmaker's Twisted Fate is so good. He is so good at manipulating the wave, basing it outside of vision. He moves outside of vision so well, and it just makes his destiny towards top, usually towards top. Like, it makes it so much more volatile and so much more scary because you've got Canyon, who's also pathing so well, playing so well, and then, next thing you know, they've taken all 5 plates or 3 plates top lane, with getting that death on the enemy top laner, and they basically can't play the game after that. We saw this with Rogue, for example. Khan, Showmaker, and Canyon, they just ended top lane. I do expect to see LeBlanc for Showmaker. This is massive comfort for him. He absolutely loves the champion, and he is really, really one of the best LeBlanc players that we have in the world. So I do expect, given how strong LeBlanc is in this meta, if Twisted Fate gets banned, we might see him move towards LeBlanc. And also, if you've forgotten, maybe because he hasn't played it that much and the champion doesn't get picked as much in this meta at the moment, but Showmaker's Zoe is legendary. He is such a great Zoe player. His Sleepy Trouble Bubbles feel like a point and click stun. They don't feel like a skill shot at all. They don't feel like one of the hardest skill shots to hit in the game when it comes to Showmaker. So, really could see them, in high pressure situations, just go to comfort like a Zoe. I was toying with a Syndra here because Syndra is another champion of Showmakers that he just feels really comfortable on and he loves playing it. So could be a Zoe here, could be a Syndra. As I said, very hard for, to talk about 3 champions when it comes to Canyon and Showmaker because their champion pools are just so deep and so flexible. When we talk about Damwon, though, we talk about the good, and then we talk about the potential concern. And the potential concern against Damwon always comes in their bot lane. Ghost, I think, is actually been pretty good this tournament. I don't actually think he's been that bad. He still had some isolated deaths, pushing lane too hard, little mistakes here and there, which is something you want to see cleaned up moving towards quarterfinals now. As they're going to be going against some teams that will be able to punish that. The fact, though, that teams like Rogue, C9, and FPX weren't able to punish it is something to be very happy about if you're a Damwon fan. But of course, you don't want to see those mistakes continuing. I think he's looked really good on the Jhin. He's a very, very safe player when he's playing on Jhin. And Jhin provides that long-range versatility. Obviously you've got your snares, you've got the ult. So it's a lot easier for Ghost to be able to just sit back, farm very comfortably, and allow Beryl to roam and help the lanes that are going to carry you, which is of course your mid, your jungle, and your top. Something that I don't think many people know about Ghost, he is actually a massive Draven player. So a lot of people I saw, in comment sections, were a little bit shocked that Ghost played Draven. They weren't really expecting it. But if you know a little bit about Ghost's backstory, like a bit of his history, he loves playing Draven. He's a legacy Draven player, actually. When he was on Sandbox, when they were in Korean Challenger, a big reason why they were able to get out of Korean Challenger was off Ghost hard carrying. He was the main damage source of the team. I know, I'm talking about the same Ghost, the one that plays safe, that we see on Damwon, but it's a very different style to what he used to play. And Draven was one of his signature champions that he would play. He was a very, very, very strong Draven player, very dominant in lane, was very calculated, very clever with how he would position himself. And obviously with the passive that Draven has, you are constantly pushing lanes. So you have to be very careful with that. And Ghost is someone who's very smart with his Draven play. So could see a Draven, because obviously Draven is very strong in the meta with the buff that his ultimate got. So yeah, I could see Draven. And of course, I've said this a lot. I know he hasn't played it yet, but Ziggs is another champion of his that he plays a lot. Darmon liked to put him on Ziggs. It's a champion that can farm very comfortably, very, very deep in, very, very safely within your own lane. You can basically one-shot waves very, very comfortably, and that again allows Beryl to roam, which is what they really want Beryl to do. That's when Darmon is at their strongest. Beryl, I think, has had some pretty good performances this tournament. Certainly, both Ghost and Beryl, their form is a lot better than what we saw at MSI and even at the beginning of the LCK. I do also have a little bit of a theory that I think Daney's drafting is very, very clean. He is someone that doesn't get talked about a lot when you talk about Damwon, but he does. He's very clever with how he drafts, and he knows these players so well. And it seems like since he's returned, Ghost and Beryl in particular have really been able to improve better because they're getting like drafts and champions that suit them a lot better. Now, with Beryl was the first one that we saw at groups pull out the Yuumi, the first pick Yuumi. I know a lot of people have thoughts about whether they like that or not, but I do expect Yuumi to be picked because Yuumi is so strong at the moment. Scaling, healing, just saying it out loud is very disgusting. And also something that Darmon fans will like about Yuumi on Beryl is that if he's attached to Canyon or Showmaker, he's less likely to get caught out. Beryl, of course, is a massive Leona player. Really, really, really great on the champion. If you saw Worlds last year, you know how good he is on Leona. And again, something about you might not know is that his rel is actually very clean as well. I think he only has one professional loss on the champion, if I recall correctly. So he is certainly a really, really strong rel player as well. So expect these champions to be coming out when we see Darmon's drafts. Of course, now we move on to Mad Lions. Mad Lions, they will pick Comfort, which is good. I think they need to pick Comfort because they need to have that familiarity on the champions in order to compete. Because I think if you just simply, if you have Armut versus Khan in a Jax versus Graves match, well, we saw what happened when Khan was on both sides of that matchup. He just absolutely destroyed it. So I think, trying to have Armut in something like that is not the way to go if you're going to be Mad Lions. Something that's really favorable for Mad Lions, though, is the fact that they are probably one of the few teams in the world that aren't afraid of Darmon. And I think that's really important because I think a lot of teams, especially in the LCK, for example, they've lost to Darmon before the games even happen. You see like this with Gen G, for example. No matter how good Gen G's playing, you know for a fact Darmon's going to beat them. And Gen G can have great leads, but Darmon just finds a way to beat them. They have this aura about them. It's like the old SKT aura where they would beat teams before the game even happened. Like Faker had already people used to make jokes that Faker had already solo killed the enemy mid laner before the game even happened because of just the sheer aura of the team that they were facing, the Dynasty. And Darmon has this as well with Showmaker. So I think this is great about Mad Lions is they are not a team that gets rocked by this sort of stuff. They face the G2 Dynasty and they've overcome it, and they clearly are the best team in the West. And they are a team that will not play scared. And if they are behind in gold, they will still fight. And I think that's really, really important because I see so many teams, they start losing against Darmon and then they just shut up shop and hope that Darmon's going to make a mistake. And you're never going to beat Darmon like that. Darmon are the best team in the world taking a lead and winning it. You rarely ever see them throw. I think you can count on your hand the amount of times that they've actually ever thrown a game. And one of them off the top of my head was game 2 in their best of 5 against Mad, and that was also because of Mad's great gameplay. So this is something that really matches up well for Mad Lions versus Damwon, and I actually think out of the 4 teams that could potentially face Damwon, Mad Lions is probably the one that presents the biggest threat to Damwon, given the fact that they aren't afraid, they will play their game, and they do it really, really well. Armut, his champion pool is being really challenged this world. I don't think his champion pool is the strongest in this meta right now. Having said that, the champions he does play, he is very strong at, and he can overcome some of those weaknesses that we see in the champions he's picking. Wukong, I think, is very, very big in this best of 5, because if we're seeing things like Jace, Graves, even Jax, Wukong's abilities and his passive on the fact that he gets armor really, really becomes a lot more important. And we know Armut, his Wukong is absolutely insane. So I would expect either Damwon to just ban it if they want to put Khan on the Jace, or I would like to see, if you're a Mad Lions fan, you would like to see Wukong on Armut. Certainly a lot of comfort, and certainly something that he plays really well. He plays a lot of Jace. He's a good Jace player. I do worry though if we have drafts are centered around Jace against Khan is a bit of a trouble, because Khan is one of the best Jace players we've ever seen, and trying to sort of challenge him in regards to that champion could be very, very scary, because Khan knows that champion really well. We saw Jace tried to get picked into him, and straight away he just goes for the Lucian top. He seems to really understand the champion, both in his favor and being such a strong Jace player, he also knows what Jace doesn't like to face. So, I do expect Armut to probably pick Jace. I don't want him to. I would just like to see Mad ban it and get rid of that sort of Jace meta within this best of 5, because I think that plays into Damwon's hands. Gnar is a champion that obviously Armut is very strong at. Again, I prefer Armut on champions like Wukong and Gnar that have really great team fighting ability, because we know that Mad's early game is not the greatest. However, their macro decisions as the game goes on, and their team fighting is amazing. So we should be getting Armut on champions that can really influence that, like the Wukong ult, the Gnar ult, for example. These can really influence a 5v5 team fight. Next up, we can obviously talk about Elyoya. Elyoya, the rookie sensation for Mad Lions. He has had an up and down tournament like most of the Mad Lion players. However, I do think if Damwon is going to lose this series and Mad's going to win it, Elyoya has to have probably the best series he's ever played, because he's going up against Canyon, and I do expect Damwon to target him. So Elyoya, I expect to see a lot of Qiyana, a lot of Lee Sin, a lot of Xin Zhao, stuff that can skirmish, stuff that can fight back against Canyon should Canyon try to, invade and mess with his pathings. Something as well that has easy gank setup. So would like to see Elyoya on these sort of champions. We saw though that at MSI, Elyoya, his pathing was really clean. But his pathing was focusing a lot around bot lane. Probably expect to see that again, because obviously if you're going to try and target Damwon, you're going to want to target them through Ghost and Beryl. Particularly targeting Ghost and forcing Beryl to stay in lane with him really limits what Damwon can and like to do. So I do expect Elyoya to try and really punish Ghost, because Ghost does have this tendency sometimes to push lane a little bit aggressively, stay for one too many waves. So Elyoya can really target these small windows. And unfortunately, when you're talking about Damwon, because Damwon's such a good team, there are only going to be small windows of opportunity for you to punish. So Elyoya, I do believe, is that player that can punish these small windows. But the question is whether Damwon lets him or Damwon even gives these opportunities remains to be seen. And I think Elyoya does have the talent to be able to thrive. We saw this at MSI. He played really, really well. My concern is, can Lightning strike twice? Canyon now has seen a lot more of Elyoya than he had at MSI. And will Elyoya be able to continue to compete with someone of Canyon's capability? Next up, of course, we have Humanoid. Humanoid is the best player in the West at the moment. Certainly the best mid laner in the West at the moment. I think he's probably been Mad's best player. He's been playing pretty well, all things considered. I do have problems with Mad's drafting, though. Victor, for example, I know it's a massive comfort for Humanoid, but Victor just doesn't fit in this meta at the moment. It takes so long for Victor to get online, and even when he gets online, because of the nature of the champion, he's so easily one-shotted. So then it becomes, all that damage he's putting out, then he gets one-shotted, and next thing you know, Mad Alliance have no damage. And I think Humanoid needs to be on something that can carry to an extent. Twisted Fate, while I don't think necessarily Humanoid is the strongest Twisted Fate in this matchup against Showmaker, Twisted Fate is so broken at the moment. As I said, the ability to Destiny and influence other lanes, it's just so strong at the moment. And Mad Lions are a team that does play that sort of pick comps really, really well. So Humanoid on Twisted Fate is really, really strong, and they can look to target Ghost or target Khan, try and put them behind. Also, Twisted Fate would really help because Darmon's vision game is so clean. So it would alleviate the pressure of that vision game by being able to spot out where Canyon is on that Destiny, as well as taking it away from Showmaker, because, as I said, Darmon's vision game super strong, and then you're giving them Destiny on top of that. So really, really good pick, I think, for Mad Lions. We know how good Humanoid is. We know he can play the champion amazingly. So yeah, expect to see a lot of Twisted Fate being contested in drafts, along with LeBlanc. I think LeBlanc is going to be a champion both players are going to look for to try and carry. We might see, Showmaker get the LeBlanc, and then maybe Humanoid will go for a counter into that. Maybe, say, Alessandra, for example. But I do expect LeBlanc to be challenged in this because both of them are amazing LeBlanc players, and it's a champion that Humanoid can be put on that can carry the game, which I think is really important for Mad Lions. Though, if Twisted Fate and LeBlanc just get banned, or Twisted Fate gets banned, LeBlanc gets picked, I do expect Humanoid to then resort to control mages, so things like Azir, things like Ryze, for example. I've got here Orianna because I think that's his strongest one out of those champions. Victor as well, we could see. I don't want to see the Victor, but again, I expect that's generally what Mad will do if these picks like Twisted Fate and LeBlanc get taken away. He'll probably resort to these control mages and try and keep Showmaker in lane and keep Showmaker from influencing top lane and jungle. Next up, of course, we have Kazi. Kazi, again, he's another player who I think is being impacted by the meta at the moment. I've got here Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is not meta at all in this current worlds. I've got it here though because Kazi is an insane Kai'Sa player, and I can just see them picking a Kai'Sa if a whole bunch of ADCs get banned, and we just put him on that because his Kai'Sa is really, really dominant, and it actually was dominating and destroyed Ghost and Beryl in lane we saw at MSI. And this, I think, is going to be the formula that Mad is going to look for again in order to defeat Damwon. They're going to look for a very strong 2v2 in that bot lane. And so that's why I've got Lucian as there as well, because I expect him to want to be on a champion that can bully lane. So Lucian and Misfortune. Obviously, these are the strong meta picks as well. So yeah, expect Lucian, Misfortune really challenge Ghost and Beryl in the 2v2, try and get those early 2v2 victories and put Ghost and Beryl behind, which is how they were able to get so much success against Damwon in that best of 5 to begin with. Kazi, I think he does easily have the potential to take it to Ghost and Beryl. Whether the other side of the map allows him to remains to be seen. But for Mad Lions, this is going to be a very, very big point of where I think they will focus a lot of their strength in their draft. And that's why when we move on to Kai'Sa, you will see that he's got a lot of Enchanter supports. Because I really expect them to want to try and punish and bully Ghost and Beryl in lane. So I expect to see Yuumi, expect to see Rakan, Nami. I think Lucian Nami is something that they're going to be pretty much insta-locking if it's available, because I think they're going to really want to challenge Ghost and Beryl. Misfortune Rakan, I think, is something else we could see a lot of. Yuumi, obviously, is the most broken support we have in the game. But again, I expect these sort of champions that will be able to be very strong in the lane. I think for Mad Lions, it's very important that in the 2v2 in game 1, early on, they get some huge advantages, whether that's win the 2v2, get some kills, get a huge CS lead, just something that really puts pressure back on Damwon and will force Canyon and potentially Showmaker as well from not using and not leveraging their leads and their golds and their advantages towards top lane, instead of having to invest resources in bot lane. Because I think if there is a world where Ghost is allowed to go even or slightly be behind in gold, Damwon will feel really good because they'll feel like they're getting a lot of advantages on the other side of the map. We know how great Kazi and Kai'Sa are, and I think they have the capacity to take it to Damwon, especially in the bot lane. We know how good they are, and I think they can really make Damwon feel mortal. And I think that's a very important thing, because at this tournament, yes, there's been moments where teams have been able to do a couple of things against them, but realistically, Damwon have never looked like losing a game. They've looked in control of every single game, and they've looked like it's an inevitability that they will win every single game. So I think for Mad Lions, especially being able to make Damwon feel a little bit mortal, it would be really, really advantageous, because it would start making Ghost question a little bit. It would put Damwon in a situation they haven't been all tournament, and it would give them a few flashbacks of MSI, which I think would be really, really good for Mad Lions, because obviously Mad Lions need that same sort of result that they got at MSI, where Kazi and Kai'Sa were really dominating Ghost and Beryl in that bot lane. If Ghost and Beryl, they feel comfortable, if Ghost is allowed to AFK farm, this, I think, is going to be, and that would make a pretty easy win for Damwon. So need to challenge the bot lane, need to get some advantages early on to put the pressure on Damwon, to make Canyon and Showmaker and even Khan feel like they need to use resources bot lane to protect them. Of course, now if we move to the key matchup, of course, is top side versus bot side. Which side of the map is going to win out the game becomes the question. Does Kai'Sa and Kazi get leads that are too great for Ghost and Beryl and then Damwon to overcome? Or does that legendary trio, that top side dominance that we see, Showmaker, Canyon, and Khan, does that continue? And, Mad Lions get put back and lose the game. The problem I see is, whilst we saw the formula at MSI, we saw Mad Lions play really well, do really good against Damwon. They took some games off Damwon. The problem I see is two major things. One is Mad's early game is probably the weakest part of their game, and Damwon has been blowing up teams in their early game. So this could cause what we saw a lot of in MSI when Darmon won. Darmon stomped Mad. Like the games where Darmon won were very one-sided. The games that Mad won were a bit back and forth, and Mad were eventually able to scale up and win the games. But the ones that Darmon won were all sub 30. They all seemed over before 15 minutes. They just, very, very stompy games. And this is something that I still worry about with Mad, because from what I've seen in their group stage, teams that I think are lesser than Darmon are really punishing a lot of mistakes Mad are making. And so I would expect Darmon as well to be able to do that. The other concern I have is that bot lane dominance in this meta is not as rewarded as topside dominance. Seeing your mid laner and your top get ahead seems to get you way more snowball and way more victories than getting your ADC ahead. Not to say that getting the ADC ahead in Kazi can't eventually snowball a game and win. It's just when we see, Showmaker and Khan, for example, once one of them gets a lead, the game just seems over. Whilst when we see, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, like Ruler, for example, when Ruler gets a lead, it feels like it takes a lot longer for that to be transitioning into dominance within the game. I think the top side champions and the mid champions spike earlier. So getting them on, getting gold on these champions really, really heavily favors, having gold turret plates, having Rift Heralds, early dragon stacking. Like, it just seems to really reward this sort of game style. And that's why I have concerns that Mad, whilst I think they are really, really good team and have the capability of winning team fights, I don't think Darmon will let them get to a point where they can have those team fights. Having said that, I don't actually think this will be a 3-0. There's just something about Mad Lions as well that makes you always think, they can do it. I think that's the nature of Mad Lions and why everyone, myself included, why we all love them. Because they just have this sort of plucky nature to them that when backs are against the wall, that's when they play their best and they just pull out these wins out of nowhere. However, I just think that against Darmon, you won't get to play the game as much as against, say, LNG. Like, LNG threw a game against Mad Lions, which cost them to get out of the group. And so I don't think Darmon will give you that same sort of leniency. So I do expect Darmon to win. I'm going to say 3-1. I think Mad can easily take a game off Darmon. Whether they're able to take 3 off them, I think becomes a lot trickier. So for me, Darmon 3-1. Well, let me know what you think. Did you enjoy that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is it going to be Mad Lions all the way? Or is Darmon going to continue their march on towards Worlds Finals? But always, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll see you next time.